I'm George Galloway, and I present كلمة حرة on Al Mayadeen television. Here we are in London. I speak my words freely, either in Parliament, on television, here on the streets of London. كلمة حرة means free word. That's what I speak. So كلمة حرة is a two-way conversation. Check it out on Al Mayadeen television. Welcome to كلمة حرة with me, George Galloway, on Al Mayadeen television, coming to you from London with an audience of distinguished experts and one or two enthusiastic amateurs like me. Although we're in London, we're talking about Yemen. Of course, the connection between Britain and Yemen is not insubstantial. It was the British Empire's last outpost east of Suez until the Yemeni people in their uprising in the late 1960s drove them out. Yemen has not had a happy future since then. It has been riven by civil war, by secession, and by reunification, by fighting between the periphery and the centre. The one thing that it has not been riven by is sectarian conflict. And the reason I begin with that is because a great effort has been made in the Muslim world and beyond to portray the current crisis in Yemen as a conflict between Sunni and Shia, and expecting people to fall in on either side according to their sectarian preference. This is completely false. The current war in Yemen is being fought between a government sponsored by Saudi Arabia against a government formerly sponsored by Saudi Arabia. Ali Abdullah Saleh was not a Shiite when he was 33 years in power and backed by Saudi Arabia. In fact, his life was saved by Saudi Arabia when he was overthrown. And he's not a Shiite now, and he's not fighting for Iran now any more than he was a creature of Iran during those 33 years of Saudi patronage. The crisis in Yemen could hardly be more stark. Just in the last days, a Somali refugee boat adrift off the coast of Yemen was attacked by a Saudi Apache attack helicopter firing British and American-made weapons, which massacred tens of people on board and wounded almost all the others. This massacre didn't even make it into the Western news media. But the picture of the slain, helpless refugees lying on the quayside when the boat was finally able to land will stay with me forever. Not just because of the bloody carnage, but because nobody cared about it. Nobody cared about the fact that it was our Saudi allies that carried out this crime. Nobody cared about the fact that it was British and American military hardware that made the crime possible. And who knows, maybe even Western people in the targeting centres ordering the attack. Of course, the Somali refugees are a drop in the ocean to the thousands of casualties that have been caused in Yemen by the Saudi war. Wedding parties have been attacked. Funeral parties have been attacked. Schools, hospitals, all kinds of public buildings, ministries, parliament have all been mercilessly attacked by the richest country in the Arab world against the poorest country. And nobody, in the West at least, cares about it. And in the East, where most of you are watching this, far too many have allowed themselves to be fooled by a fake sectarian narrative, by a false dichotomy. The Yemenis are almost all of the same religious sect. And the idea that this is a religious conflict is completely false. This is a civil war, a power struggle between different forces in Yemen. That's how it should have been left. That happens in many countries in the Middle East and many other countries too. there was no cause for foreign intervention in the Yemen any more than there was cause for foreign intervention in Syria. But the end result has been the same: the virtual destruction of the country and the absolute polarization in the region between supporters of one side and supporters of the other. There's one last point I need to make that marks out Yemen from the other conflicts. There is a state of famine in Yemen because of the deliberate, systematic, willful effort to blockade Yemen from food supplies. Starvation is being used as a weapon of war, and people are literally wasting away and dying of starvation in an Arab country next door to the richest Arab countries, are starving to death, children expiring for the want of something to eat. For me, it is an utter shame on everyone involved. It is a mark of sin and shame that the Arabs find it so easy to massacre and murder each other. Whilst the Palestinian people live under foreign occupation, their land and all the holy places stolen from them, and no one can lift a finger, it seems that all hell can be brought to bear on a poor country like Yemen. Shame. Shame on all those who are involved. Let's hear from our audience. That's only my take on events, but this is كلمة حرة, which means, of course, everyone is free to speak their own free words. Yes, sir. You're first. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I am Dr. Hamid Shijni. I am from Yemen originally. I am a scientist and an expert in Arabic and international affairs. I agree mostly with the comment made by George غالاوي. I don't consider the war in Yemen as a sectarian. It doesn't exist any sectarian division in Yemen. The war in Yemen is a continuous pattern that has been happening in the whole region, starting with Afghanistan, when the American launched war against what's called the communists at the time, and all the Arabs went down there supporting, sending kids and so on and so forth, despite the fact that Palestine is too close to them. They spend a lot of money, so all the time when there is a bit of Arabic money, you find the American try to create a zone for a war by which is paid. So it is a war for gaining money by the Western countries that they're selling weapons to the Middle East. The war in Yemen, that's one side of the story, that the West is initiating those wars to gain money. But in the other end, we find the Middle East as a whole, not just in Saudi Arabia or Yemen or whatever it is, you got a very big gap between the rulers and the public, and the American and the West use this as a kind of milking those governments and strip them out of their money. There is no democratic system, and all what you find, all the countries in the region, Saudi Arabia, Iran, name it, they all are very generous of sending weapons to a poor country like Yemen. I was hoping that any country like Yemen that will put some money for a kind of building a school, an orphanage, kind of a hospital. But in the contrary, all what we have been having is we spend billions of dollars of buying weapons for those that they are attacking Yemen, called allies. At the other end, before the war starts, we find Iran, they were buying a lot of weapons from China and sending it to Yemen rather than sending a kind of packages for development. I am very frustrated about the hypocritic system that's existing in the region, and what I find it's most of the war those countries are leading is for the reason that they are having a big corruption, and that's the main reason. Big corrupt regime, they try to divert attention by creating wars, and that nobody have them accounted for. And the other thing is a scapegoat from being caught in the spot. The corruption has been playing a major role in Yemen, for example, as a poor country for the last 40 years. All the money has been drained until to the point that there are starvation and so on and so forth. But the last starvation that we have at the time being is because of the fact there is a blockade against Yemen, which have no reason, and to happy, like be fair with both sides, the blockade from outside has no reason for it, but inside also, the one that's like occupied by that's under the control of Al-Houthis and Ali Saleh, whatever it is, they're still like having a black market, and they are like driving all the efforts to like to help people away. So both sides in the equation are very bad. We have tried many times. I have myself sent a letter to the representative of the United Nations, telling him that we should solve the problem through different manners, i.e. having an independent government that doesn't have any to do with any side of the criminals in the both sides. But unfortunately, the decision is not in his hand or the United Nations. As we all know, it's the American decision that they planned the war for a long time, and that they are executing it along with the British and the other nation. Thank you very much.
It's very common in Kalima Hurra for Arabs to blame the Americans, the British, the Turkish, the Zionists, but they never blame themselves.
No, I'm not saying.
I just want to press you on something. I want to press you on something. Clearly, the British and American and other Western arms companies are in it to make money. What I'm asking is, why are the Arabs killing other Arabs?
Because
I'm not interested in British arms companies. I don't expect anything else from them.
The Arabs
why is the United Arab Emirates? Why is Saudi Arabia? Why is this, that, and the next Arab? Why are they killing Arabs in Yemen? That's what I want to know.
I think I did cover that by saying there is a big corruption inside the countries. There's a big corruption in Saudi Arabia, and that has been admitted by princes inside the regime.
This war is being run by a 30-year-old man, isn't it?
Yeah, what I'm saying, that corruption has been for a long time until now. And what's happening as a way of to avoid blame or whatever it is, they are to go into war. And the other thing is, we're going to be very, very naive to assume that those countries, most of the countries in the region, they have their own independence, they have their own decision, they are decision makers. They are not. By the end of the day, they are appointed. And we could see the one that they have trying to overthrow the government, they are imposed again the dictatorial regime because they serve the West. So I am not not putting the blame in the weapons only. What I am saying, by the end of the day, there is a big gap. I said that in the beginning, between the rulers and the public.
Sure.
And there is a big corruption.
Sure.
You couldn't treat it, so you just wage a war outside to divert attention from the problem.
Let's hear from the lady next to you.
Thank
What's
you.
your analysis?
Well, my name is Catherine Shakdam. I'm actually a political analyst, and I'm the director for the Shafakna Institute of Middle Eastern Study. And I happen to have just written a book on Yemen, which is called A Tale of Grand Resistance.
What's it called?
A Tale of Grand Resistance. And I have to say, I have to disagree thoroughly with you. Number one, while Saudi Arabia has unilaterally attacked Yemen for no good reason whatsoever, the resistance movement is answering an attack on its borders, nothing else, nothing more. Iran has not gotten involved, and I'm sorry, there is absolutely zero proof that Iran has provided weapons. Those are the lies that Saudi Arabia are weaving, so that people would turn around and say that it's a sectarian war, it's a proxy war, it has nothing to do with anything. Now, when it comes to the why Saudi Arabia attacked Yemen, and I'm sorry, but the US are just supporting them because it makes them a lot of money, nothing more, nothing less. Saudi Arabia has attacked Yemen for two reasons. Number one, they could not bear to actually have a resistance movement which is independent from Riyadh, south of its borders. That's number one. A real democracy in Yemen would be a problem for Saudi Arabia, sir. The second thing is Yemen happens to be sitting on Bab el-Mandab, which is the world oil route. So should Yemen become truly independent from Riyadh, which it hasn't been under Ali Abdullah Saleh truly, it would mean that Saudi Arabia would lose control over the world oil route, and this it cannot afford. The other thing to be considered is that, yes, sectarianism does not exist in Yemen. That being said, sectarianism is being sold by Riyadh. Wahhabism is a problem in the world. I'm not talking about Sunni Islam. I'm not talking about a Sunni-Shia divide. It doesn't exist. It exists in Riyadh palaces. It exists because Al Saud has weaved it this way, and this is the narrative that they have sold the world. And, you know, for bad and for worse, I would say, the world has fallen for it, especially Muslim countries have fallen for it. Wahhabism wants to control everything. And if you look at the way that this war in Yemen has been architected, because it is an architecture, I've actually done some research for the UNSC, trying to look at the war economy, trying to look at the fact that there has been a genocide, a cultural genocide in Yemen, where everything that makes Yemen Yemen, and I'm talking about the soul of a people, I'm talking about the fact that you have many different schools of thought in Yemen are being disappeared just because Wahhabism would like to claim holiness over Islam, and this is a reality that we don't talk about. What you're looking at Yemen is not just a starvation, which is manned by the United Nations, by the way. It is a war crime. It is a crime against humanity. Billions are being made on the blood of the innocent, and I'm talking about the Yemeni people. But not just that. There's other people in Yemen. There are refugees which are stuck in Yemen, Syrian refugees, Iraqi refugees, Ethiopian refugees, who can't get out because they're not allowed to get out. And they are being bombed and disappeared just because they wanted to be independent of Saudi Arabia. And Saudi Arabia stands for Wahhabism. So the problem that you have today is a resistance movement against Wahhabism. So yes, it's sectarian in nature because it's refusing Wahhabism. And the resistance in Yemen is not just about the Houthis. There's a lot of many people there. And yes, corruption is a reality in Yemen. And yes, crimes are being committed. But you have to remember that those people are fighting against something like 36 countries. You're talking about grand military powers, obliterating a people, excuse them for resisting, excuse them for throwing everything they got, because they have to. And yes, sometimes they breach the border of Saudi Arabia, but remember who breached theirs first. And this is all I have to say for now.
Thank you. Yes, sir?
Yeah, no, I agree with a lot of what she said. I agree with a lot of what the gentleman said with regards to the conspiracies about the West. Yes, the Americans are in there to make money. The English sold £3 billion worth of weapons since the war started in March of 2015. And if the English didn't sell it, the French would happily do it, or the Germans or anybody else. So I'm not going to criticize the Europeans too massively or the Americans too massively. I mean, it's still a Saudi decision made in the Saudi political system to conduct this for their own malignant purposes. You could, they want either an opening onto the Arab Sea, or they want to control the way they view it, that the Houthis are unreliable. They're not pliant. They require a pliant government on their southern border that will do its bidding, that will, they can draw the borders the way they want. They had that with Ali Abdullah Saleh until the whole 2011 Arab Spring thing. He left, and then everything's unstable in Yemen. And now what the Saudis want more. I mean, for 2 years they've been bombing. They have achieved nothing. They accept massive destruction, massive casualties. But any of their political goals, the government is still entrenched in Aden. They haven't gained any territory. It's not like Hadi and his forces are, bearing down on Sana'a. No, they're still stuck there. So the Saudis have achieved nothing, zero.
How much do you think is to do with the changing of the guard in Riyadh? The king is with his, 500 limousines and 5 dozen aeroplanes and 5,000 servants touring the world, leaving a 30-year-old man in command of this.
Yes.
How much of this situation is down to the political vacuum that exists in Riyadh?
Well, the Saudis have always been very cautious over the past 30, 40 years. When Iraq invaded Kuwait, they panicked and called the Americans to come and help them, I think, and that generated a sense of embarrassment among many elements of the Saudi system. Now it's almost a sense of machismo, almost a kind of, look how tough we are, we can handle anything. So
of course, what's being shown is the opposite. They can't handle anything.
They can't. I mean, their incompetence
is. They can't prevail with them.
Well, they can't. I mean, they have English and American controllers in the control rooms telling them how to direct their weapons, what to shoot, how to hit it. So this isn't a Saudi. So this idea of the Saudis being some competent military power, they're not. They can buy all the hardware that they want. They can buy exotic weaponry. They can, yes, they can afford it all. Would they? How well would they fare against the Israelis? How would the Saudi army fare against?
Truthfully, we'll never know that one.
Well, we're not going to know that one.
The Yemenis are not easy to occupy.
Yeah. The Egyptians learned that
Alexander
in the 60s.
The Great, couldn't conquer Yemen.
The Turks couldn't.
What's the chances of the Saudis moving in
None.
to victorious
None. They don't have a big enough army to do anything. Like I said, they can drop bombs, they can drop missiles, but the Saudi army is in no position to actually invade anyone. That's why the Pakistanis and the Egyptians, who were in the Saudi plan going to provide the manpower, they were going to be the invading force. They both said, you know what, goodbye. No, we're not going to get stuck in this.
That's very interesting, isn't it? That,
it is.
That even countries that are cap in hand to Saudi Arabia, like Egypt and Pakistan, are not prepared to commit themselves to ground forces.
No, you'd need 200,000 men at least to invade the country, and even then the casualties
add a zero.
Well, yes. I mean, you know, and who's going to, even if the Saudis paid for all of that, you know, you'd have massive casualties. It would drag on for decades, possibly. So, no, the Pakistanis balked, the Egyptians balked, and now you've just got some mercenaries or a few from the African countries here and there scattered all over the place. They're not going to change anything. So it's.
So how's this going to end?
I think the Saudis will eventually get bored with the whole thing, declare victory in the similar way to the Americans in Iraq. You know, the Americans just basically declared victory and said, yeah, well, we're out of it. So the Saudis will just keep bombing and keep on.
No, you can't speak without the microphone, and we have to take a break. But when we come back, you're next on. I've got to take a break. It's a spirited debate already. This is كلمة حرة. You're watching كلمة حرة with me, George Galloway, for Al Mayadeen Television, coming to you from London, discussing Yemen. We took the Al Mayadeen camera out onto the streets of London to find out if the British knew anything at all about Yemen and what's happening there. Take a look.
Who do you think is responsible for the siege in Yemen?
Saudi Arabian interest and US backing to try and a proxy war almost of Saudi Arabian interest and the US being their ally in the Middle East to try and support their own self-interest there.
I think that Saudis are responsible for it.
Saudi, I think, yeah.
Who's responsible for the siege in Yemen?
From what I know, I suppose it's the Saudis. But
I think mainly the Gulf countries, including Saudi, because they're responsible for the war in Yemen at the moment.
Who do you think will benefit if Yemen becomes a failed state?
Saudi Arabia, definitely, and America as a result of that.
surrounding countries, like Saudi Arabia, perhaps.
Who do you think will benefit if Yemen becomes a failed state?
The neighboring states that are the Gulf in the region, I think, yeah.
Saudi Arabia, the Gulf states.
I think certain rising countries at the moment would benefit mostly. Other states which are currently, developing would benefit. It's another, country taking off the global market.
Splendid example of unanimous British opinion. The fact that the Western media hardly covers this conflict at all, it's a miracle that so many people, indeed all of them, understood exactly what's happening there. Although what they're doing about it is another question. Let's continue the debate. Yes, sir, back to you.
We were talking about, what's the role of who is leading the war in Yemen and so on and so forth. Yes, Saudi Arabia and the Gulf state, wage war in Yemen. But if we step back a little bit, we find, when the Houthis took over through a process that was a democratic system going on place, we find the Iranian came out to say the fourth Arabic countries have fallen under our hand. You find the Houthis having a maneuver besides Saudi borders, okay? You find also, as well, that some of the Houthis went out to say we are gonna, go to Hajj next year without a visa, i.e., we're gonna, go to Saudi Arabia without anything. I am a Yemeni. I know what's going on in Yemen. My heart bleeding because of what's happening in Yemen. I don't support the Saudis. I don't support the Gulf state. I don't support Iran. I don't support anybody. The Yemenis are victim. And for us to say the war is going to take a long time until the Saudis realize the Yemeni are dying nowadays and nobody care. The Yemeni are starving and nobody care.
How many Yemenis has Iran killed?
What's that?
How many Yemenis has Iran killed?
You don't have to point a gun at somebody to kill him. You have
Well,
to. When you
it's absurd that you're making an equivalence.
No, just a minute. I'll tell you what happened. Iran, instead of saying sending millions for development, I said they paid the Chinese to sell weapons to Yemen.
Completely untrue.
It was before the war. Before the war, it was all documented. It's not something like
completely and
it is
utterly untrue. There
It
are
is true.
two things I
It is
have to contradict you on.
It is
First
true.
of all, the Iranians did not say the fourth Arabic country to fall under
Yes,
our
they
hand.
did. No, they
An Iranian,
they did.
one Iranian said that. This is Saudi propaganda. Second,
no,
I'm
it's not
talking.
I'm not a Saudi.
Habibi,
Okay.
I'm conducting the show and I'm talking now.
Yes.
Secondly, there is absolutely zero evidence, and if there was any, it would be emblazoned on every wall, that Iran is supplying weapons to the Ali Abdullah Saleh, former Saudi ally-led coalition of the Houthis and the revolutionary forces in Iran. In fact, I wish they would supply weapons, and maybe then the revolutionaries could prevail.
Okay.
But they haven't provided any. Yes.
You see, when the war starts, yes, Iran didn't send weapons, but before the war started, there were ships boarding at Al Hudaydah and Al Makha. No, it is not. It's not Turkish. No, that was Iranian, and the Houthis were unloading them.
Yeah, no.
They were unloading
One singer,
them.
one song. Go ahead.
No, it's not a song. It's not a song in here. What I am saying, it
It's
was
a fairy
documented.
tale, actually. It's not a song.
No, it's not for it. You see, I know the show is sponsored by Iran, so we can't contradict
Don't
it. You know?
dare.
So what I'm saying,
lie. Don't dare lie.
I am. I'm not lying.
You're a liar.
I am not lying.
You're a liar.
No, I'm not
The
lying.
show is not
It's
sponsored
not, okay?
by Iran.
It's
I have nothing to do with
it
Iran.
does.
The
Okay,
show
it's
has
the
nothing
same
to
thing
do with
Express
Iran.
TV, okay, so what I am saying, I express my...
Everyone can hear what you're saying.
I am Yemeni.
Yeah.
I am a Yemeni,
Yeah.
and I know what's going on in Yemen, okay?
Everyone can hear what you're saying.
The Houthis are sponsored by Iran. The Houthis have paid billions by Iran, okay? They bought little kids to fight, okay?
Who did?
The Houthis. Okay, by Iranian money. So how do you know,
What's
George?
your evidence for this?
What's my evidence? The many thousand that they have been killed, children killed. What's the cause?
Iran.
What is it?
Let me get.
What is
hold
it?
on.
And
You're saying, you've just said it on television.
Yes.
The whole Arab world will be able to see it.
Yes.
YouTube will be able to see
Yes.
it forevermore. I promise you.
Yes.
You just said Iran is bringing children to fight
Not bring. I
in
don't
Yemen.
say bringing. I say they bought a lot of. They gave a lot of money to the Houthis.
children.
The Houthis bought a lot of Yemeni kids that they were in the street to fight. Okay, and that's what the revolutionary part came
with your
from.
foolish sectarian nonsense.
It's what's
you
sectarian?
are a personification
I'm not talking about sectarian.
of everything that is wrong with the Arab world.
I am not talking about sectarian.
You're a useful idiot.
No,
you're a useful idiot.
I think you're a puppet.
For Israel,
I think
a puppet. Whose puppet am I?
I think whose
puppet am I?
paying? You say that.
Whose puppet am I?
It seems to me that you are not. Okay,
Whose
there is no
puppet?
there is no value in your show.
Whose puppet
okay?
am I?
When you talk about attacking
Whose
me,
puppet am
you're
I?
attacking
I'm
me.
attacking you because
Why?
you're talking rubbish.
It's not
and
rubbish.
you're making
It's not
allegations
rubbish.
for which you're providing not a scintilla of evidence.
You see,
you are a useful idiot.
No, I am not
sent
idiot.
here
I am not
by
idiot.
the people
I am
who are
not.
killing your
No,
own countrymen,
no,
who are massacring your own children.
You are
and
defending-
you're
you
here
are
to
defending-
blame it on Iran.
you are defending Iran.
didn't kill
You are
any
defending Iran.
Yemeni
You
children.
are shouting-
Not one child
You see-
has been killed by Iran
You see-
in Yemen.
you
But
are-
the people you're
you are-
backing
you are
here
shouting.
are the people who
You
are killing
shouting
the Yemenis.
for defending Iran. That's the only shouting you are doing in here. The only sound you are making just to defend Iran. Iran in Yemen, Iran in Yemen is guilty as Saudi Arabia. There is no difference, okay?
Well, I asked you.
And that's
I
what they have
asked
done.
you,
Okay?
did Iran kill
They are all
any
doing the same
Yemenis?
thing.
You
Yes.
answered no.
They send a lot
So
of weapons.
how are they as guilty?
They send weapons before the war to evacuate Iran.
Yeah.
There is-
How have they as guilty?
Let's see the other ones, okay? What are you going to say about it, okay? They are as guilty as the Saudis.
You are about to become a video star.
No.
You're about to be seen throughout the Arab world as the fool that you are. Go ahead. Go ahead, madam.
السلام عليكم. صفاء الشامي. أنا يمنية بريطانية وعايشة من سنة ونص. يعني أنا مش عارفة ليش الدفاع المستميت عن الناس اللي بيقتلونا اللي هي المملكة العربية السعودية، وليش يعني مركز على حكاية إنه إيران هي عدونا. إحنا لا نريد السعودية، لا نريد إيران، لا نريد أي دولة أن تتدخل في شؤوننا بس. وممكن نحن نعمل معها علاقات طبيعية مثلها مثل أي دولة، إيران والسعودية وكل الدول هذه.
كويس، مطلوب هذا.
أيوة، في إطار العلاقات المشتركة.
التدخل الأساسي من وين جاء؟
التدخل الأساسي السعودية من زمان هي مش رايدة لنا الخير يعني.
Nobody can hear you, brother. She's got the microphone.
من زمان السعودية معروف أنها ما تحبش اليمن، وعندها عقدة أنه إذا اليمن تطورت السعودية بترجع للوراء، وإذا اليمن نزلت للأرض هي بترتفع. هذه هي خرافتها من زمان يعني. أنا ما أعرفش ليش يعني. إحنا جيران وأكثر من 1 أو 2 مليون يمني بيشتغلوا في السعودية، وإحنا يعني بننفعهم وهم بينفعونا. يعني ليش العداوة هذا؟ ليش هم يعني عاملين لنا شوكة في حلوقهم؟ أنا مش عارفة لحد الآن إيش اللي استفادت السعودية للآن من هذا العدوان كله. ما فيش أي استفادة. يعني انهيار اقتصادي، موت، جوع، يعني مجاعة، إغلاق مطارات، إغلاق ميناء الحديدة الوحيد، المنفذ الوحيد اللي ممكن أنه يدخل له الأدوية والمواد الغذائية. ليش تغلقه؟ طيب إيران في هذا الموضوع هي اللي غلقت الميناء؟ لا أقول لك يعني مثلا إيران ما نفعتناش لحد الآن. إيران لحد الآن ما هو اللي فعلت لنا. أوكي، لا ضرتنا ولا نفعتنا لحد الآن. هي جابت لنا سفينة وما وصلتش السفينة هذا لحد الآن. ما يهمنيش توصل ما توصل.
Nobody can hear what he's saying, so just keep making
ما
your point.
يهمنيش يعني. هي جابت لنا سفينة ولحد الآن ما جتش السفينة وراحت لجيبوتي. ما نش عارفة إيش العلاقة يعني بينها وبين جيبوتي. طيب، لا نفعتنا ولا ضرتنا. من اللي ضرنا لحد الآن؟ من اللي شردنا؟ من اللي قتلنا؟ بس من اللي قتلنا لحد الآن؟ أنا أسألك سؤال يعني خلينا نكون منطقي للأمانة، منطقي لحد الآن. يعني من اللي شردنا؟ من اللي قتلنا؟ يعني أنا لحد الآن ستك في بريطانيا، ما قدرت أروح أشوف أهلي. أيضا في مارس لما بدأت الحرب ستك في القاهرة لمدة 3 شهور، ما قدرت أشوف أهلي. ليش تغلق المطار؟ وليش أي طيارة من الأمم المتحدة أو طيارة إغاثة ما تمر إلا بتوقيع التحالف؟ ليش؟ اليمن بلد مستقل ولها سيادة ولها كلمة. بس هذا اللي حبيت.
Let's hear from an Iraqi gentleman of note. Go ahead, sir.
السلام عليكم.
وعليكم السلام.
أنا زكي الشامي مرتضى. أنا أولا تعرفت هنا على الأخ الدكتور حميد الشجن معناه بالعربي الحزين، والأخ محمد نزال من لبنان. حكى لي الدكتور حميد عن آرائه عن اليمن، وأنا أبدا ما أيدته. أنا لا أؤيد
كلمة هرة.
نعم، أنا لا أؤيد ما قاله الدكتور، مع ما صار صديقي الآن وأعتز بصداقته وإن شاء الله يغير رأيه، لكنني لا أؤيد بالمطلق الكلام الذي قال عن اليمن وعن إيران. ويعني لازم يكون الإنسان عنده مروة وعنده إنصاف. لما تتكلم عن إيران إلى الآن هي تساعد الفلسطينيين وتساعد اليمن وتساعد العراق وتساعد سوريا. اليمن أنا حزين لليمن لأنه يمر بأزمة شديدة جدا، ومحاصر من الجو ومن البحر ومن البر، ومحتاجين المي. هذا المي اللي هو الله محلله لكل الناس. مانعين الماء عن أهل اليمن، هم بأمس الحاجة للماء، وهذا ظلم شديد. اليمنيين أنا شفتهم بالصيف الماضي كانوا يكسرون بيوتهم يدمروها، واليمن يبقى بلا مأوى، ينام برا بالشارع ودرجة الحرارة 30 35 توصل 40 بالليل. فهذا يعني المفروض أنه يكون إنسانيا، لازم احنا نلاحظ هذا الشيء، ولازم نأيد اللي يساند أهل اليمن ويساعدهم، ونرفض كل اللي يعادي أهل اليمن ويحاربهم. والسلام عليكم.
Walaikum salam. Thank you very much. Yes, the lady in the middle. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Dawa, and I just graduated, so I don't do anything in
You're welcome.
Let's suppose that the Houthis are not supported by Iran. So the kids or the new groups, the so-called Houthis that are in Yemen, who are they being supported by? They have money, they have weapons, they armed, and everyone is questioning, where are they being supported from? Who is supporting them?
I can answer that.
No, I haven't finished. So let's say Iran is not supporting them. Who is? Who has the hand to support young kids? And I can imagine people who are not from Yemen or not Yemenis or have no families in Yemen, they don't know what it is. But I do have family in Yemen, I have relatives in Yemen, I know what's going on. So this is, no one can deny it. Little kids have been supported and armed to go out there on the streets. To do what?
Well, you tell us.
Who's supporting them?
Well, you tell us.
If Iran is not involved, I'm not accusing, and I'm not even defending.
You very clearly are accusing them.
No,
you very clearly are
I'm not accusing them.
No, you
I'm
are.
not accusing them.
No, trust me, you are.
No, I'm not accusing them.
Okay, you tell us
the new
then.
ideology
If not Iran, you're saying if not Iran, who? Who then?
The new ideology that came in Yemen, back in the day in Yemen, I never used to know anything that's mosque have been painted with green paint, people shouting strange things.
What are they shouting?
Where did they come from?
What are they shouting?
Like new terminologies, Islamic terminologies, Islamic... It's an influence. Where did it come from? Where did it come from?
You think it's Iran?
Well, I'll leave the answer to you. Where did it come
I have
from?
no answer.
People...
It's clear that you think it's Iran.
No, not to you.
It's clear
to
that you think it's Iran. Why don't you have the courage to say it?
I'm not. No, I'm not saying it is Iran. I'm saying there is an Iranian influence in
Yemen. If not Iran, who?
Exactly. You're saying Iran has no influence, no involvement in Yemen.
Actually...
And now you're saying, where is it from?
No,
of
you're
course it is
the
from
one
Iran.
who's saying it. But you don't have the courage to put the name to it. That's the difference.
I'm saying, let's say it's not from Iran. So you can tell me where it's coming from.
Let's take the lady, the author of the recent book. But,
actually, I can answer that question. When it comes to...
Madame, in the next segment, we need to take a break. You're watching كلمة with me, George غالاوي, on Al Television, coming to you from London, talking about Yemen. As I told you, we took the كلمة camera onto the streets of London to ask a surprisingly well-educated British populace what they thought about what was happening in Yemen. Take a look at more.
Is famine the ultimate goal of bombs dropped over Yemen?
Other than direct casualties, yes, probably. Wear down the population. It's kind of a long, drawn-out way to win a war, but yeah.
Possibly, yeah.
I would say that it's one of the goals, but also like the establishment of dominance over Yemen is definitely one of them as well, in my opinion.
I think it's the ultimate goal. It's perhaps a question of more financial and economic interest. But
I'm not sure if they're aiming to produce a humanitarian crisis, but to destabilize the area, and famine would be a big part of that, then I think, yeah, in a way, yeah.
Do you think the international community will intervene to prevent Yemen famine?
I think they should, but I honestly don't, because of the lack of coverage it's receiving and how people have become so apathetic towards these humanitarian crises just because of the flow of them at the moment in the stream. People have just become apathetic to that whole kind of thing, and it's not being broadcasted enough.
Given how little is reported at present, I would say now it seems unlikely to me, but I don't know.
Well, they're not really helpful right now, but hopefully they will notice the extent of this problem and provide appropriate solutions to it.
I don't know. Yemen seems to be largely a forgotten war. It's not one that really hits the headlines very often. I don't know if there's that political will there, or if people tend to intervene only if they've got an invested interest in that country, which is sad but true, and I don't know if there's that political will there or that interest there to intervene.
I think certain countries which are developed at the moment, they'd take some responsibility to empower their own countries and their own people, where others, I feel like they'd use it purely for their own publicity.
Well, there you go. That's the view from the streets of London. Let's hear our distinguished experts here in the studio. Yes, madam.
Well, I just wanted to respond to some of the last comments. When it comes to, weapons in Yemen and how come the Houthi, actually I would rather we use the term resistance movement, because the Houthi are just one tribe from Saada. They don't represent the entirety of the resistance movement. They're just a part of. It's important. Terminology is important. Why the weapons? Well, quite simply because Ali Abdallah Saleh for about 30-something years, dig some holes in certain mountains in Sana'a and hold up a lot of weapons that the US actually sold him to be fighting Al-Qaeda. So when it comes to weapons, Ali Abdallah Saleh, who is part of the resistance movement as well, doesn't need anyone's help. It would be quite difficult for Iran to even contemplate the idea of sending weapons to Yemen. So even though if they decided that they wanted to, they would have to go through an entire blockade to do this, which would mean declaring war to the US and other Western capitals. I don't think that Tehran wants to do that. However, you want them to want that. They don't want that. Another point I would like to make is that should Iran be actually involved, as it did in Iraq and in Syria, I don't think we would be having this conversation right now, because I don't think that Yemen would be at war anymore with Saudi Arabia. It's just,
this is
I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Now, when it comes on, and that's one important. No, I'm talking now. One important point I would like to make is that when it comes to the Houthis, again, I like resistance movement, employing kids. I'm going to say yes, it's a very, very sad reality. I'm not going to deny it. Now, what we need to remember is the why. What we need to remember is that it's out of desperation, because there is no one else to fight. So there is no one else to fight, for your land and your country. I'm terribly sorry to say that, kids have to take up weapons, but I would say that blame lies not on those who are carrying the weapons, but on those who are forcing them. And those guys are sitting in Riyadh. Now, one last point that I would like to make is that we talk about sectarianism and we talk about painting green, doors and stuff. Yes, let's paint the whole country green and, let's, pledge allegiance to Iran or something. But the problem is not this. North Yemen is Zaidi. If Zaidi wants to feel empowered, let them. It's called pluralism. It's called religious freedom. Now, another thing that is important is that I didn't recall anyone complaining when the Muslim Brotherhood was arming kids, in their war against the Houthis during, there were several wars during 2004, 2009 against the Houthi. Kids were actually bought by Al-Islah, by Al-Ahmar family. No one said nothing.
Well, look.
General Ali Mohsen Al-Ahmar was doing this all by himself. And the Brotherhood and Wahhabis have actually indoctrinated Yemen. So why now are we turning around and saying that the Zaidi don't have a voice?
Sectarian issues that exist, I don't want to make them worse. First of all, there are many Palestinian kids fighting Zionist occupation of their land, and they are regarded as heroes. So don't try to tell me that young people in Yemen fighting against a foreign invasion of their country are somehow criminals, or those who are supporting them are somehow criminals. Secondly, there is no shortage of weapons in Yemen. Ali Abdallah Saleh was the president of Yemen for 33 years. The army remained loyal to him when he was overthrown. There are plenty of weapons in Yemen. Iran has no need to send weapons to Yemen. It has not sent weapons to Yemen. It could not send weapons to Yemen except by confronting those who have blockaded the country. These are all of them, used by the malignant forces that are attacking Yemen, and they're useful idiots. They are just pure propaganda. You're next. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Shabir Hassan Ali. I am the co-editor of the book by Catherine. What I actually want to say is this fetish, and it is a fetish that some people have of pointing the finger at Iran in any scenario that involves a resistance bloc. This is a Zionist manufactured phenomenon. So, sir, with the utmost of respect, you're just spewing Hasbara rubbish, right? This makes you look stupid and is beneath you, right? If you have, wait, let me finish now. Let me finish. Habibi, let me finish. Habibi.
But hold on. No, first of all, nobody can hear you. Brother, secondly, you're next. You can answer him.
Right.
But let him speak. Let him speak.
I said it with the utmost of respect. Okay, fine.
He sounds quite mature to me, yes. He sounds quite an intellectual to me. Go ahead. Please don't interrupt him, and nobody will interrupt you. I'll make sure of that. Go ahead, sir.
The second point is, instead of worrying about whether Iran is involved or such and such is involved, let's look at who is actually harming Yemen. Today, who is bombing Yemen? Is it Iran? Or is it Saudi? Is it Israel? Is it Emirat? Is it this country and that country from GCC? Is Iran bombing? No. Right. But I see people like you, especially you, I see people like you constantly point the finger, Iran. هذا من فضل السعودية. عرفت كيف? This is from Saudi. This is Saudi Zionist junk. If you really care about Yemen, everyone, you care about Yemen, stop pointing the finger somewhere else. Look at the children on the ground dying. Look at who is sending those bombs and fix that. Let's say Iran is helping Yemen and helping Ansarullah. Let's say it is. Why is that a bad thing? Why is that a bad thing? Like George says, maybe they should.
They should.
Maybe they should. You know?
Anyway. Doctor, please, right of reply.
Okay, what I am saying in here, it seems that everybody ignoring the fact that there is the Houthis invade, just a minute, don't laugh, okay? The Houthis went all the way from Saada, all the way to Aden, okay? Destroy Aden, and they destroy Taiz, and they destroy many of the countries inside Saada itself before the war, before the what's called the allies like interfere in Yemen. I am not supportive of Saudi Arabia. I consider what's going on in Saudi Arabia is a crime in Yemen. The same thing that the Houthis make a crime in Aden and Taiz and the other things. They were not resistance at the time. Who were they resisting against who? You are an author. What you're talking about in here is rubbish because of the fact before Saudi interfered, the Houthis were all over, taking over the cities one by one. Who were they fighting? Yes, we could say after the allies came to Yemen, it is resistance. I buy into that. But before that, who was fighting them?
There was a civil war in Yemen.
No, there wasn't a civil war. There was a dialogue. There was a dialogue. Al-Hiwar al-Wadani was in place. And they hijacked it. And they went from Saada initially to Dammaj.
I know, that's called a civil war.
From Dammaj, not so civil war. There's nobody was fighting them. Dammaj was a school. They invaded the school and they killed many. Then they went to a muaskar in Amran. Okay, that's Yemenis. There's no Saudis. There's no Emiratis. There's nothing. It's a military base in Amran. And then they went to Sana'a and they took over Sana'a, okay, by force. And then from there they went all the way to Aden.
None of what
that's not civil war.
No, a civil war is a war inside a country between two sides.
There is no two sides. There was not two sides. They were invading one after another. There was nobody resisting, okay? So what's happening in there?
Enough.
The terminology in here. So after that, once they got to reach to Aden, okay, and the sage, the president at the time, elected president, doesn't matter if he's good or bad, he was elected by the people.
Who was elected by the people?
One man election.
Just yes, Abdurrahman Hadi Mansour. No, just a minute. It was agreed by the Houthi themselves at the time that he.
Don't call him an elected president because there was only one man in the election.
What I'm saying in here, it doesn't matter. The Yemeni agree for this to take power until they finish Al-Hiwar al-Wadani. Okay, and then they put him under siege. They put the government that they agree to under siege.
Enough.
So why we are trying to avoid the facts in here?
Enough.
Okay.
Now
we have to be very careful.
You have, in the course of this program, accused me this program of being funded by Iran and me of being a puppet, though you wouldn't specify whose. You are very clearly indicating that Iran is co-responsible, jointly responsible, for the fact that thousands of your citizens are now dead.
He initiated.
This stands as a point of view. It's false, it's ridiculous,
It's
and
not.
it will be seen as such by the audience. Well, let's see what the audience think about it. My point to you is, as I made in my opening comment, there was a civil war in Yemen.
No, there wasn't.
There was political conflict.
There wasn't a civil war in Yemen. There wasn't.
There was armed political conflict in Yemen.
Where?
I had no side in it. I hate Ali Abdullah Saleh and I hate Hadi. I'm not on either of their sides.
That's good, that's good.
A civil conflict in somebody else's country is not your business.
But there was a dialogue.
It's not your business whether it's Yemen
do you know there
or
is a
whether
dialogue?
it's Syria.
No, I'm
it's
asking
their
you,
business.
I'm asking you a question. Do you know that there was a dialogue in Yemen?
I don't care about the dialogue. It's Yemeni business.
There wasn't any
Yemeni business.
No, but there wasn't a civil war.
Well, that's Yemen's business. What it's not is Britain's business to militarily involve itself in Saudi Arabia's massacre of the people of Yemen.
You see, I support you in this, but what I'm saying before that...
Even though I'm a puppet funded by Iran.
It doesn't matter, okay?
Let's go to this gentleman now.
I mean, while there is plenty to criticise Ansar Allah, Houthi, Ali Abdullah Saleh, whatever, you can criticise many of the things they've done. The fact remains that Saudi planes, not Iranian planes, which are bombing Sana'a, that is a fact. Have the Houthis done mistakes? Yes. Have they grievous mistakes, grievous errors? Yes. I'm not trying to downplay them. But there is absolutely no equivalence between what's going on one side and the other. Another thing with regards to Hadi's government, the term finished. And it was extended by 3 months. And that finished as well. So the fact that Hadi is not a legitimate leader, his entire government is not legitimate. When his thing ended, yes, the Houthis shouldn't have marched out of Sa'da. You can argue that. They shouldn't have gone down to Sana'a, Dhamar, Adan and all the rest of it. But the fact is, Hadi was morphing into another Arab dictator. I mean, it finished, it ended. He refused to stand down. They gave him another few months. It ended then, and he still didn't stand down. So, I mean... Where is his legitimacy?
Yes, let me take this gentleman at the end.
Abbas Zabada. I'm a British Yemeni living in the United Kingdom. I think the main focus here. I mean, look, I'm sick and tired of pointing fingers and blaming people. Are we not realising that over 7 million children in Yemen are currently starving to death in areas like Hadayda, Al-Mahwit, no sort of support whatsoever? I mean, I think the focus has gone to sort of blaming people, and we're not sort of focusing on the famine, the amount of people that are dying.
Well, it's a very important point, and the fact that the famine is deliberate, it is a matter of policy, that it is backed by the UN, as you said, manned by the UN, that it is backed by the Western governments, who are starving children to death. Absolutely. As a matter of politics.
Absolutely.
Doesn't get much worse than that. We'll be right back. You're watching Kalima Hurra with me, George Galloway, on Al Mayadeen Television, coming to you from London, a spirited debate about the situation in Yemen. Let's hear from gentleman next to you.
Well, I mean, I think another thing to really consider is the miserable humanitarian situation. I know it's been alluded to and it may have been spoken about, but it's getting infinitely worse. I mean, as you say, it's a matter of deliberate policy. And
the BBC sent one reporter, didn't they?
Well,
and,
the BBC has one report every month or something.
No, that's powerful footage, but nothing changed as a result.
No. I mean, there was a rather interesting, in my opinion, report on Channel 4 News a couple of months ago, where the Krishnan Gurumurthy actually went to Yemen and he saw the port of Hadayda and all the cranes which had been deliberately bombed. Now, the Saudi justification is that, well, we don't want weapons coming in or whatever. That's their rationale for it, as ridiculous as that. But as a result of that is now you have starvation on a level that has never been seen in Yemen. I mean, yes, Yemen has always been a poor country, but we have never seen these levels of malnutrition, of starvation, where you've got all the aid agencies putting up all kinds of red flags and warnings. This is unknown. It's unprecedented.
How is it, by the way, that Yemen is so poor? It's living next door, cheek by jowl, with the richest countries on the earth. How did they... I mean, they are Islamic countries. They pray 5 times. Their leaders go on Hajj and so on. How did it come to pass? I mean, if my next door neighbour was desperately poor and frequently on the edge of hunger, and I was fantastically rich, at the very least, I would think that's not a very safe set of circumstances. Maybe I should share a bit of what I've got with my next door neighbour, at least so that they won't one day murder me and steal what I've got. Go ahead.
Well, I think chronic mismanagement on the part of the Yemenis. I mean, for one part, Yemen has been... Its government has sadly been corrupt for the past 30, 40 years, where you see ministers and army officers swanning about in massive villas and expensive top-of-the-range cars, and the rest of the population has to make do with the scraps. On a second element is Saudi policy. Saudi has always wanted Yemen to be relatively weak. It doesn't want a stable, strong, successful Yemeni state, which is why it fed that. It fed that by a system of bribery. It'll give money to this sheikh or give money to that sheikh, and allegiance and loyalties from this side, play them off against each other. Basic divide and rule. The English were very good at that when they were running things. So yes, bad management from the Yemenis, mismanagement of the economy, corruption, all the regular problems, plus Saudi interference to keep Yemen off balance and unstable.
Yes, the lady.
كمان أضيف نقطة إنه من زمان وكان المفترض أن اليمن تدخل مع مجلس التعاون الخليجي الGCC، يعني قوبل بالرفض عدة مرات من دول الخليج، لكن وأن اليمن غير مهيئة أنها تدخل مجلس التعاون الخليجي ولازم يكون في إصلاحات إدارية وسياسية وما إلى ذلك. لكن هو يعني غير منطقي هذا الرفض المتواصل من الدول الخليج، لأنه اليمن ما عمرها كانت دولة فقيرة. اليمن دولة غنية جدا زراعيا، فيها زراعة، بترول، الثروة السمكية لحالها يعني ثروة كبيرة جدا في اليمن، لكن سوء الاستغلال وسوء يعني من قبل النظام الحاكم يعني ما هيأش الظروف عشان أنه يتمتع الشعب اليمني بهذه الثروات كلها. لكن ما كانش في أي مانع من أن اليمن تدخل مجلس التعاون الخليجي، وكانت الأسباب ضعيفة من جهتهم وغير مقنعة.
Let me hear from the gentleman behind you, sir.
Thank you. George, it's just a quick point. It's rather than a question. It's whereas there's never an MI6 officer around when you need one. Where are the Yemeni white helmets? Where is a Yemeni white helmet's going to get an Oscar from Hollywood? There are no white helmets because the MI6 officers are directing traffic for bombing. The MI6 officers are directing all of the weapons that we've sold Saudi Arabia from David Cameron onwards that have been getting dropped on innocent, unarmed people regardless. There's a humanitarian crisis, but there's no humanitarian intervention because Britain is up to its kneecaps in guilt. So,
well, I couldn't put that better myself. Yes, madam.
So let's say Saudi withdraws from Yemen, or let me rephrase the question: how can we make Saudi withdraw from Yemen as Yemenis, without the aid of Western countries, with no one, just as Yemenis?
Well, if you want my answer is you have to fight them, and the Yemenis are fighting them, and the Yemenis fought everybody who ever invaded them. And nobody ever successfully occupied them. And Saudi Arabia will not successfully occupy them now.
But Yemen is quite poor compared to Saudi.
Wallah.
We are not as
the
strong
Vietnamese
as Saudi.
people were fighting in their bare feet.
Let's be realistic.
The Vietnamese people were fighting in their bare feet against the most powerful state on the earth.
Saudi is our neighbor country. We shouldn't make any... we shouldn't be enemies. We should be friends. We should be friends. We should be friends. And when they get out, if they get out of the country,
I don't know where we got you from.
No, let's just be realistic.
Let's take this woman
you just
here.
Want to be against
just you offer them a teddy bear. It might work.
Look, what you said, I get where you're coming from. I just think you're really lost. with the utmost of respect, right? Because the problem, no. Let me try and explain. Let me try and explain, right? It's not the first time this type of resistance has happened. There is a track record of this resistance working. If you look at Hezbollah in Lebanon, Hezbollah was, Lebanon, South Lebanon, was completely occupied. There was this entity, much like the White Helmets, called the South Lebanon Army, which was funded, trained, and bolstered by the Israelis, by the Americans, by the Brits, by all of these people. What happened? What happened? No. Listen, understand, because all of these are very similar, my dear. You have to understand this in full context. All right? When the people of Lebanon decided to unite under a leadership, this is important, and make that resistance, what happened? 2000, the Israelis put their tail between their legs and left. And then when they made an adventure in 2006, they got whooped in a way that they have never been whooped. And to this day, they are terrified of going into Lebanon. And I tell you this, mark my words, what is happening in Yemen is a rerun, is a complete rerun. The Yemeni people are honorable people. They are brave people. The people in Ansarullah, which is not just the Houthi, it is many, many tribes within Yemen. Many tribes. These are honorable people. These are people who do not want this corruption. The same way Zionism is a corruption of Judaism, they do not want this Wahhabi corruption, which is a corruption of Islam, coming to them. They do not tolerate these bombs, but they will take them on the chest and they will destroy this Saudi entity. Believe me, I've said this before, I'll say it again. In at most 10 years, there is no such thing called Saudi Arabia. It's finished. Probably less. Understand, resistance is what these enemies understand. Resistance is what liberated Syria, is what liberated Aleppo, right? It's what liberated Lebanon. It's what freed Gaza. And if the Palestinians actually took on full resistance, there would be no Zionist entity. And Yemen, alhamdulillah, has taken resistance. And mark my words, even if people here are sitting here apologists for Saudi, even though they say that they support Yemen, qalli. It doesn't matter, right? Yemen will be successful, but by resistance.
I have 4 minutes left. I have two speakers. In that case, 3? Okay. You, sir?
Yeah.
Then you, and last word to you, madam.
I don't think that's very helpful to put a comparison between Hezbollah. No, just a minute, between Hezbollah and Israel, okay, and the occupation, and now, no, it's not. And now what's happening in Yemen, in Libya, in Syria, in Iraq, okay, they are all civil war to divert attention from what's happening in Israel, okay, in Palestine, okay. No, it's not. I don't think that you are trying to mix up. You are mixed up, okay. What's happening in here in Yemen is. The Yemen was very stable until what you call Ansarullah took over every city and start. It was more stable. There was election. No, just a minute. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It was stable. There is no war. There is no war. Okay, until the Houthis and just let me talk. Okay, Yemen.
Talking rubbish, but
No, just a minute. If it's rubbish or not rubbish to you is like no value for most of the Yemenis. The Yemenis value what I'm saying. The Yemenis value what I'm saying completely, because what's happening, there was a period of time by the Hawar al-Wadani, there was the result, elections gonna be established, a new constitution was written, and it was to be declared. They hijack all this and they start a war, okay, and wage a war everywhere.
It's their fault.
Okay, what's happening in Syria and that's murderers, okay, killings. How many Syrians have been killed? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter in Yemen. How many killed in Yemen? How many in Yemen have been killed? And that's what I'm saying. It's the cause of the problem. The Saudis are murderers as well as the one inside. Now we have starvation in Yemen. If you go to Yemen, just a minute. Can you let me talk, okay? Let me talk. If you go to Yemen, there is starvation now in Yemen, okay? There is embargo, nothing go to Yemen except like no, when you want something to get in. Just a minute. But inside, you find the black market run by the Houthis as well, okay? So both sides are guilty, okay? So don't tell me like no, that your heart in Yemen.
No, it doesn't. No, you're blaming the black market.
Yeah, there is a black market, okay? You go down there.
That's why they're starving.
Okay, there's not a problem.
You've had your say. This lady here. Go ahead, madam.
عزيز. بس يعني أقول لك حاجة يعني.
Don't interrupt.
اليمن قلت لها كثير جدا اليمن مش مستقرة. خلينا نعترف بهذا الشيء وفي حرب أهلية ونظام الحكم فاسد ونعترف يعني في مشاكل داخلية كبيرة جدا. ما تنساش أيضا التفجير تبع القاعدة ولما انتخبوا عبد الرب منصور هادي وهو المرشح الوحيد يعني في كثير ناس ما انتخبوش. خليني بس أقول لك يعني كوقائع خليني يعني نتناقش. أنت تتذكر كم تفجيرات للقاعدة وما حركش ساكن عبد الرب منصور هادي؟ تتذكر كم ماتوا جنود؟ تتذكر كم ماتوا ناس؟ في أبين لوحدها كم ماتوا ناس؟ والله ما أنا عارفة يعني آلاف. أيوة بس يعني أنت بتتكلم ومبرمج على شيء معين يعني تتهم جهة معينة لازم نتهم أطراف كثيرة داخلة في اليمن. أيوة بس هو هذا الشيء الثاني إنه نفش معنا عداوة مع الشعوب الخليجية يعني الشعب السعودي مثلا يعني مش عداوة إحنا عداءنا مع آل سعود الحزب اللي هو بيحكم لكن عداوة مع الشعوب كلها ما فيش معنا أي نوع من العداوات. الشعب الإيراني شعب يعني كنا لكل الاحترام والتقدير. الشعوب الخليجية كلها بس يعني يتركوننا وشأننا ولا يتدخلوا في شؤوننا ويوقفوا القصف ويفتحوا المطارات ويزيلوا الحصار. هذا مطلبنا.
Last word to you, but it'll have to be a very brief one, madam.
The only thing that I want to say is that we have forgotten to talk about political self-determination. Yemen belongs to the Yemeni people. They have a right to their future, whichever it may be, whether it's the Houthi, whether it's Hadi, whether it's Saleh, whether it's Ahmed Saleh, who's stuck in the UAE. Exactly. So here's the thing, is that when we talk about this tale of resistance, Yemen has a right to its resistance because it's a natural right. They have a right to defend their borders against an invader. Saudi Arabia constitutes that. Saudi Arabia has invaded Yemen. Good or bad, I know you love it, but no, nobody else loves it. The Yemeni have a right to resist. It's a duty to resist. And second of all, this idea that Saudi Arabia is big. Yemen is bigger. Yemen is richer. The Saudi are making you believe that it's bigger and that it can do better. But realistically, Saudi Arabia is sitting on Yemeni land. 3,000 provinces of Saudi Arabia are Yemeni. The Houthis are doing it. Ansar Allah is doing it. Yes, you are. It has been proven time and time again. The idea that the resistance cannot succeed is this idea that Saudi Arabia is selling because they are terrified of the resistance movement. And I'm talking globally. Resistance is the only way forward when you're being abused. What do you want to do? Would you rather die and say, I'm sorry, I give up my humanity just because Riyadh has asked me to? No. The Yemeni will resist because there's no way forward but through, and through they will go through.
It's not the size of the dog in the fight that counts. It's the size of the fight in the dog.
It's the stand that matters because, to be fair with you, the Yemeni have already won because they're standing and the Saudi Arabia is just cowering and just hiding behind their money and, puppets who love to speak on their behalf.
Well, it's been a spirited debate, I must say, rather more spirited than I expected, but life is full of surprises. I hope you enjoyed the show. Come back next time.